everyone, welcome to the next episode of Bones and Stones. Today we've got two guests joining us. We have Vanessa Mitchell, who's the Programme Co-ordinator for the African Programme in Museum and Heritage Studies. And we have Christene Smith, who's an honours student at the University of Pretoria, but also an intern on the programme. So in today's session, we want to talk a bit about the program, learn a little bit about what's going on, but also then hear from Christene and what she's planning on doing with the program. So Vanessa, to kick things off, firstly, thanks for joining us. And then perhaps you can just tell us a bit about the program and what your aims and goals are.
Yes, thank you, Tim, for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Robben Island Museum. So technically the program started almost 22 years ago, but it was then known as the Robben Island Training Program, and it involved inviting students from all over Africa to be part of this program where we unpacked the concept of museums and demystifying this whole notion of what a museum should look like. And as you all know, Robben Island is a World Heritage Site, but the whole island is the museum. So we wanted to have this discussion around what it means to be a site museum and not just a building where people go into and you can't make a noise, you can't touch, you can't feel, so we wanted to unpack that, and we wanted to give people an opportunity to learn about Robben Island Museum firstly, and then secondly how Robben Island, the prison, evolved into a museum. So this program started in 1997 and it evolved over time, and people then wanted to have a formal qualification coming out of this program. So UCT, University of Cape Town, and the University of the Western Cape then became the custodians of the academic side of this program. And then Robben Island then offered bursaries to a certain number of students who then lived on the island. So lectures took place on the island at UCT and UWC. Around about 2009, it took another shift, and UCT unfortunately withdrew from the program. So it was basically Robben Island Museum and University of the Western Cape who managed this program. It then took another name change. It then became the Postgraduate Diploma in Museums and Heritage Studies. Okay. That was in 2009. And that program then facilitated by UWC, and students came away with an actual honours degree. It was at an honours level. So you had a postgraduate diploma in museums and heritage studies after your 9 months. And then it took another turn in 2018 when Robben Island unfortunately could no longer sustain the program, but it continued at the University of the Western Cape, but we still kind of had the budget for these students. And then the program evolved again to become the African Program in Museums and Heritage Studies, which now has an internship and a bursary component. And this is where Christene then comes into the picture. So from 2018, 2019, and then obviously this year, this is our third cohort of this new program, which is now a bursary and an internship program, where we identify, and Christene can explain to you a little bit later, students from all over South Africa can make application for a bursary, which Robben Island will give you, and then the student then does an internship with Robben Island for 6 weeks. Now people will say, where does Christene come from? She's an archaeology student, it's a museum, but we've kind of opened up the spectrum to say, look, Robben Island is a World Heritage Site. We have a whole lot of components attached to it. So we've had students who were social science students, mathematics students, across the spectrum, and we wanted to say that Robben Island is just not about history, and it's just not about a museum. It encompasses a whole lot of aspects, and that is where we are today. So we give this opportunity, and unfortunately, COVID has dealt us a bit of a blow, as we all know. So basically, what would happen is we want the students to come to the island and live on the island for that 6 weeks for the internship and do the intern. So it's a very short period of time to do an internship, but it also gives just a taste for them to be part of this. If they want to do it on the island, they can do that. If they want to do it where they are at home, that's fine. But I mean, we prefer to have all 7 of them on the island. It's also a great opportunity for them to network through various disciplines, academic disciplines. It also teaches us as Robben Island Museum, you know, new ideas, fresh ideas. And like I said, I've been with Robben Island for almost 22 years now. So, you know, the young people can teach us, look, this is how we want a museum to be run, or this is how we, you know, and we need to be open to those kind of ideas. So in a nutshell, that's what it's about.
Well, it's really interesting, and it just happens. We've had quite a few museum conversations on our channel. And one of the things that comes up in pretty much all of them, I think, is how to create a museum around modern and current like perspectives, views, and also desires. What do people want when they walk into a museum? Do they want to read, you know, thousands of words of text, or do they want to be able to interact with the heritage items? And with the museum, with the island, it seems you have this really special or unique situation where you almost, by its very nature, have an open air interactive museum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what makes us unique. Besides the fact that we have former political prisoners who now live on the island and who are tour guides. I think that's the other unique aspect about it. But yes, we are an open air museum, and this is what we like to invite people to do, is to come to the island with an open mind, but almost construct their own experiences for themselves. So we have a tour guide, but the tour guide gives you a little bit of history, but it's up to you as the individual to take away from it what you want to take away from it. You know, so that's quite important for us.
I see through the program you have a series of different electives: oral history and heritage, public history and tourism, visual history, curatorship, heritage management, sites, collections and institutions. Are these, so with the internship, can people expand on those, or are people limited to doing certain programs of research?
No. You see, those internships were part of the previous program. So currently, students can decide on a project. We would love it to relate to Robben Island, of course, but if it doesn't, it's okay. So, for example, I think one of the students is doing something on language. So that's fine. Somebody else is doing a project on land and history. And so it really doesn't matter, as long as we can find a link between Robben Island and the project.
Okay, and then the work that the interns are doing, that's going to then be brought into the museum in some way?
Yes, it forms part of the narrative of Robben Island, but we also do a little publication. So if you go on our website, you'll be able to see the previous research projects of the other cohorts of the other years. So from 2014 upwards, the students have written research papers, and their reports all go into, it's an online publication. It's on our website. People can just go and have a look at it. But it certainly does form part of the narrative.
Okay, great. Matt, I see you've got a question.
Yes, sure. Vanessa, thanks very much. It's great to meet you today virtually, and it's incredible to just hear about all of your experience having been with the Robben Island Museum for such a long period of time. If I could maybe just ask a question, maybe a little bit more related to the museum as opposed to the program. As Tim said, we've had a couple of chats with a few other people, in the museum kind of sector, and what always interests me is how the information is curated and presented to people, to tourists that are coming through to experience the area. And you rightly said now that people will take away from the experience what they need to. But what's interesting, at least for me, is how do you strike a balance between how that information is presented for both a local audience, where there's such significance for Robben Island. You mentioned the political prisoners, for example, Nelson Mandela. So there's such important local significance, but then there's a massive international tourist sector as well in Cape Town and visiting Robben Island. So how do you strike that balance between the two?
Yeah, it's a hard one, Matt. But the department I work in is the education department. So we facilitate a range of programs, and we like to say from 0 to 99. So the young learner of 0 and the adult learner of 99 must be given an opportunity to have an educational program. So we're saying to churches, to schools, to universities, to adult learning centers, contact us and we customize your program for you. So for example, adult learners on NQF level 4, for example, need to do this particular thing in their curriculum. We will then design a program for you. Similarly with the primary schools, high schools, I've facilitated educator workshops with educators from across the world, so all they need to do is to contact us, say, look, this is what I want, and we can tailor make it for you. There's obviously also a general tour where people go on. So you book a ticket and you just go on the normal tour where a tour guide takes you around the island, through the prison and so on. So there are those two aspects. So people can have that specialized tour. Just for example, I've done bird watching tours. I took a group once from Ireland who just wanted to go to the lighthouse. Yeah. Because there were lighthouse hoppers all over the world. So they just wanted to do the lighthouse. I did a 12-kilometer walk with the Irish Dystrophy organization. They needed to do a certain amount of kilometers around the island. So we walked the island for 12 kilometers on that particular day. Wow. So there are opportunities for groups to do a specialized tour. We've done cycling tours, we've done walking tours. So there are those opportunities for people. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
No, I mean, it's amazing to have that sort of kind of diversity that you can cater for, in terms of what people want from the island, from birding to cycling, obviously to then the historic elements of the island. It's quite amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe we can shift the conversation towards Christene, so we can kind of bring you into this chat as well. You obviously, okay, I mean, I know a little bit of your background, but maybe you can fill us in a bit on what you're up to at the moment, and then also let us know what attracted you to this internship in the first place.
Yeah, so I did a BA general, and then I went over to a BSc medical science degree, and then from that I was just like, you know what, let's just try archaeology again as an honors. And here I end up again with archaeology honors. And yeah, and my supervisor, Dr. Zander Antonitis, I spoke to him and I'm like, I would like to do archaeology honors, but I don't want to do beads and pottery. Is there anything else that I could perhaps incorporate? And I quite enjoy osteology and human anatomy. So he's like, yeah, sure, we'll see what we can figure out. And with COVID hitting, my project had to kind of be changed at the spur of the moment because ethics clearance takes forever to get. So I've now just moved on to a new project. Well, not now, but in April moved on to a new project. And the project entails child burial practices during the Middle Iron Age. So it's for me quite an interesting form of project. And then with the bursary, I think I was just literally looking for a bursary, any bursary that didn't require me to have it submitted at the end of last year. And then I came across the Robben Island Museum bursary, and I thought this is a unique opportunity. I mean, it offers an internship, it offers a research project. And so I thought, well, why not just apply, see what happens, and then go from there. And yeah, it was kind of a belated birthday present, actually. 2 days after my birthday, I got the little acceptance letter. So I was like, yay, running into the house, showing my parents, I've got the acceptance letter for the bursary. And yeah, so.
That's awesome, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Matt and I are both Stone Age archaeologists. And so when at first I tried to convince Christene to go into the Stone Age, I think her eyes glazed over very quickly after looking at some stone tools. And then in our discussions around what she could possibly be doing, she told me there were some stone tools on the island. So that got me very excited as well. But Christene and I had quite a lot of chat about different project ideas, what you could be doing yourself. What have you settled on in the end? What's your final decision?
So I've settled on the chronology of graves and grave sites on Robben Island, because there are 3 different grave sites, 1 unmarked and 2 with gravestones and the gravestone markings. So I think it's going to be interesting to try and figure out the unmarked grave sites, try and figure out perhaps who was buried there, why is it so different from those that are marked. But I think grave sites for me have become quite a good thing to look at, especially archaeologically wise. A lot of people think, oh, grave sites, it's just a westernized concept, but perhaps we should take it and decolonize grave sites and look into it and see what can be brought about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, that's most of our conversations were around the grave sites, and I think that's a really cool thing to think about, especially in terms of the history of the island and the occupation of the island, where you have marked graves and names and associations with people and elements of our past in this country. So these unmasked graves, unmarked. Sorry,
pun intended.
these graves, they probably speak towards sort of a voiceless past in a sense, that you can start to pick up on these histories that we generally don't have in our history books and stuff like that. So, Matt, I see you've got a question. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah. Christine, I've got a two-part question for you. Firstly, will you be going to the island to do your internship versus just staying at home? And then secondly, when you're on the island, are you going to be housed in a cell, or what is the kind of accommodation situation there like on the island?
So I'm actually hoping to go to the island, or I'm hoping to do my internship over November, December, January period. So that's all again dependent on COVID regulations and whether or not we can go down and whether or not the island is open for us to actually go down. And I think, if I remember correctly, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa, I think we are housed in the medium security prison. So essentially we're going to be on the island for 6 weeks, going to be locked up on the island.
Yep.
So it's going to be a very different form of lockdown, but probably more intense than what we've been dealing with the last couple of months. No, but that's incredibly interesting. I think just to take a step back and to look at this project overall, of this program, it's incredibly interesting. When Tim, came to me and said that he knew you, Christine, and he started telling me a little bit about the details of the program, I just said it sounded so incredibly interesting. And just, Christine, as a young student, you have the opportunity to also work within the World Heritage Site. That's incredible. Not many people get to do that, and you'll be exposed to the intricacies of heritage management and legislation on a completely different level that you wouldn't get at, say, a smaller national or local kind of site. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's an incredible learning opportunity. Yeah,
no, definitely. When that acceptance letter came through, I grabbed it with both hands, and I'm like, I'm doing this. This is definitely something I want to have on my a little notch on my belt. Be like, I've managed to do this, and it's been an absolutely incredible educational experience.
And then I think from an archaeological point of view, it's great. Vanessa was saying earlier that you the first archaeologist per se, other than people still in training, who's going to be part of the program, and that's really cool to have our little funny obscure field being extended into these other elements of our country, like Robben Island. And there obviously is archaeology there. It's been reported and stuff. And then there's the shipwreck history around the island as well. So it's really cool that there's going to be this extension of archaeology there as well. So hopefully, where there's a lot of expectation on you, Christine, Robben Island now needs to be recognized as an archaeological site as well. So
no pressure.
So, Vanessa, with regards to coronavirus and all these changes that we've all had to experience this year, has it forced you guys to rethink your approach to the program as well, beyond simply housing people on the island and so on? Are you going to be implementing any different or new approaches or changes going forward?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the fact that we're talking now is part of that, and if we hadn't been brought down to level 1, we would have had to unfortunately continue the internship online. But fortunately, Christine, we just had a meeting today. We will be bringing you guys to Cape Town, to the island, because we can travel between provinces, right? So you will be given that opportunity. But yes, our exhibitions are online. We're looking at having online chats with former political prisoners. So we've had to rethink a whole lot of things. For us, example, we only go to into the office 2 or 3 days a week, and you know, changes are made in terms of physical tour guiding. So we have those groups changing. So it has some of our seminars. We have 5 seminars a year, which is our physical seminars. So we've had 1 online seminar. So we've had to, you know, adapt in that way as well. But there are things that we will have to try and do physically, obviously with smaller numbers. Currently, for example, we only run 1 tour a day at 11 o'clock, and it's only Saturdays and Sundays until obviously we can have more numbers.
Yeah. So, and how many tours would you normally run per day?
9, 11, 1, 3, 5 tours a day, and every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
So a total of close to 2,000 people a day.
Yeah.
We've now reduced to 150 a day, which is a huge drop.
Yeah. So it must
But yeah.
A huge challenge for the whole tourism industry, I suppose.
Yes, it is absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. You know, we rely so heavily on tourism, but I think we need to think about, as South Africans, to think about how we look at tourism. You know, we can be tourists in our own country. We don't have to go overseas. You know, and I think if we put our heads together and as South Africans decide, look, let's just tour in South Africa, we can rebuild our economy within South Africa and not boost other economies, you know. So I'm hoping that, for example, Robben Island's having a 40% off ticket sales for tomorrow. So people can, you know, it's Heritage Day, so at least they can get a discount on Heritage Day. And I think that's the way we should be looking at tourism in South Africa.
Yeah, you know, as archaeologists, we often think about tourism, well, many of us do, because archaeological tourism is something that is part of our field as well, but it's a very sort of undercooked element of our field. You know, there's so much archaeology out there, and it's so incredible. You don't get a lot of people, comparatively speaking, visiting our archaeological sites like Mapungubwe and Tulamela, you know, all over the country. You know, so it certainly is something that we think about, you know, on a fairly regular basis. But anyway, it's been a fascinating chat. Thank you very much for introducing us to this, and hopefully maybe you know, another archaeology student out there who sees this and thinks, well, next year I'm going to go for it as well. We might hopefully inundate you with more and more students over the next few years.
The more the merrier.
But thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Christene, congrats on getting the bursary, and we're definitely looking forward to hearing all your stories when we get back to Varsity next year.
Definitely. I can't wait to tell them.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.